Hello and welcome to The Broken Sword, your YouTube home for The Lord of the Rings and all things J.R.R. Tolkien. In today's video we attempt to answer the question, how important is a wizard's staff to their use of magic? Is it crucial or secondary to their power? Well, let's see what we can find.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
Throughout The Lord of the Rings, we see Gandalf and Saruman concentrating their magical abilities through their staff. While we don't have any smoking gun from the text that indicates the staff or stave could be critical in their performing magic, we do get the indication that at least some people think the staff is crucial to their performance of magic. For example, when Gandalf arrives in Meduseld, Hammer tells Gandalf he cannot allow him before Theoden King so armed. The rest of their party turn over their weapons, though Gandalf says,
You would not part an old man from his walking stick.
And so he is able to pass with his staff in his possession. Maybe a little magical influence even happened here. Clearly though, this upsets Grima Wormtongue as he calls out,
Stop! I told you to take the wizard's staff!
As we've indicated in previous videos, the nature of magic in Middle-earth is more akin to nature magic than that of, say, Harry Potter, where spells are cast by the use of a magic wand. Though it must be said, even in that fantasy series, the most powerful wizards are able to perform magic without a staff or wand. It just takes a lot of training. However, it could be that the staff allows a wizard to concentrate their powers for a specific purpose. As Saruman is asked to surrender his staff, Gandalf breaks it. This is inconclusive though. It could be a symbolic or moral point to remove this symbol of his authority. This marker of his importance as the White Wizard was taken from him to indicate his loss of rank, though he is still able to wield the power necessary to take over the Shire as the Old Man Sharky later, showing that not all of his power was broken here. So, this is, once again, an inconclusive point, though an indication that the staff is important to a wizard at least. While the staff may have this important aspect, we should also note that what we see later with Theoden is played out earlier, but more subtly, in the scene with Bilbo and Gandalf in Bag End. When Bilbo is refusing to give up the ring and follow through with his plan to leave the ring behind to Frodo, Gandalf steps in. What we see is Gandalf concentrating with a gleam in his eye and slowly working to break down Bilbo's defences, appealing at all times to the best in Bilbo. Bilbo is of two minds, as he senses, perhaps, the ring has some power over him. Gandalf prods him, urging him to be rid of it, to be free. In the film we get the impression that Gandalf's might, in the end, threatens Bilbo. This is not quite the same impression we get from the scene in the book though. We get the sense that Gandalf is using his powers, if not necessarily his magic, but his persuasion, to break the spell the ring has held on Bilbo all of these years. Of all of the people to take up the ring, we must remember only Bilbo both claimed it and gave it up. No one else we know from the series who picks it up and claims it as their own has ever willingly given it up, including our hero Frodo. Other people pick up the ring, including Gandalf in the books and Tom Bombadil, and of course Samwise Gamgee too, which if you missed our video on how Samwise Gamgee resisted the power of the One Ring, then please go and check that out. But anyway, they do not claim it as their own and then give it up. Only Bilbo is shown to have done it this way, after having it corrupt and possess him for so long as well. Frodo decides in the cracks of doom that it is his own, his precious. But Gandalf is not there with him and there is no magic to save him. But his moral failings are not so catastrophic because Gandalf has ensured his company by the way of Sam and Frodo by the way of Gollum. It is not through their innate character that allows them to succeed as individuals, but their choices which allow them to succeed together. Part of Gandalf's mission in coming to Middle-earth was to inspire hope, to encourage the spirits of men when the time to fight Sauron came. Individually, they fail at times, but together, and with a little help from their friends, they succeed. Some indications that it is important, however, could be shown. Gandalf uses his staff to call for Gwaihir when imprisoned at Orthanc, as Frodo sees this in a dream within the text. The lines are poetic, so we need to be careful when making concrete points based on this, though it is important to consider. In the dead of night, Frodo lay in a dream without light. The figure lifted his arms, and a light flashed from the staff that he wielded. A mighty eagle swept down and bore him away. Another example of the staff being prominent is at the bridge of Khazad-dûm, when Gandalf uses his staff to break the bridge to keep Durin's Bane at bay. Could this have been done by some equally powerful weapon? It is probably unlikely given what we know about the construction of Khazad-dûm with the quality of dwarven structures, though it must be said that this has its counterpoint in that Gandalf did not desperately attempt to keep his staff when he was fighting the Balrog for those many days afterwards. You would think if it was that important when fighting a fire demon like the Balrog, Gandalf would want to keep it if it really made him more powerful. But it is an interesting point to think about. Moving on though, as for the Witch King being able to break the wizard's staff, this is not found in the books, but more likely Peter Jackson's interpretation of a scene from the Siege of Gondor chapter in The Return of the King. So, let's have a look at that now. "You cannot enter here," said Gandalf, and the huge shadow halted. "Go back to the abyss prepared for you. Go back, falling to the nothingness that awaits you and your master. Go!" The Black Rider flung back his hood, and behold, he had a kingly crown, and yet upon no head visible was it set. The red fires shone between it and the mantled shoulders vast and dark. From a mouth unseen there came a deadly laughter. "Old fool," he said. "Old fool, this is my hour. Do you not know death when you see it? Die now and curse in vain." And with that he lifted high his sword, and flames ran down the blade. Gandalf did not move, and in that very moment, away behind in some courtyard of the city, a cock crowed. Shrill and clear he crowed, recking nothing of wizardry or war, welcoming only the morning that in the sky far above the shadows of death was coming with the dawn. While I can agree that the scene from the Return of the King movie looks very cool, it is like a similarly analysed scene wherein we have the Balrog and its flaming wings, long-term misinterpretations that have persisted because of unfortunate wing metaphors. There may be no more to the scene of the Witch King and Gandalf than that the director and his staff thought it looked cool. They needed a more powerful bad guy, so it was just intended to highlight the threat of the Witch King. And for the purposes of this video, we are treating the films and the books as entirely different worlds. I mean, we have also done a video on the differences between the movie and book versions of Gandalf vs. the Witch King, so again, go check that out if you're interested. But if you would like to see us do more of those film and book comparison videos, then please leave us a comment below of more books versus movies. And well, of course, we will get working on more of those for you. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. While doing research for this video, the common answer seemed to be that since Gandalf was able to defeat the Balrog without the use of his staff, it was not that important. The times we see Gandalf make use of his staff throughout The Lord of the Rings, and his reservations at letting it be taken when he arrived at Meduseld tells us otherwise. That Grima would respond in such a way to seeing Gandalf with his staff indicates he knew, or at least thought, that Gandalf was more formidable when he had his staff in his hand. However, in the books, there is no quasi-exorcism of Theoden, as he is not possessed in the same way that he is in the movies. It's much more that he is being corrupted by Grima, who plays on his fears and his worries for his people. He is rendered ineffectual as a king rather than being literally possessed. So how is Gandalf able to dispel Grima's influence in the books then? Well, he is able to show Theoden that Grima was a liar, and that he intentionally twisted the truth, essentially outing him as a traitor to Rohan. Grima was, after all, a native of Rohan. It's only later on in the story that we do find out that he worked for Saruman. And we also may consider, knowing later on that he does work for Saruman, that Grima had this opinion on the wizard's staff due to information from Saruman. If he knew himself he was more powerful with his staff, then passing this information on to Grima in the case he had to deal with Gandalf was surely a pretty big clue that they are important to the wizard, definitely helping in increase and focus their power. It is no stretch to say that Gandalf the Grey and White were stronger characters in the books than in the films. A good example of this, Gandalf is able to fight off all of the Ringwraiths at Amon Sul before Aragorn and the hobbits reach there, and this is still as the Grey, not the more powerful White. He wields lightning in such a way that Tolkien tells us that the Witch King himself was shaken by the fire of Gandalf. We see something similar in the film when Gandalf and Shadowfax ride out of Minas Tirith and his staff glows fearsome white, and he drives off the foul beasts of the Nazgul as they attack the retreating men from Osgiliath. And this is all done with a great shaft of light that splits the heavens, all from the wizard's staff. Now, could Gandalf have conjured this same power with just his hand? Probably not. Almost definitely not. But again, this is more of a movie on screen moment. But now we are about to go off on a slight tangent here, but please bear with me. If we look at a letter to his son dated the 7th to 8th of November 1944, Professor Tolkien addresses his son's guardian angel. What is interesting for the purposes of this video today is what he says in this letter, as it captures the very image and character of Gandalf. And while we are still, as it were, on the porch of St. Gregory's on Sunday 5th of November, I saw the most touching sight there. Leaning against the wall as we came out of the church was an old tramp in rags, something like sandals tied to his feet with string, an old tin can on one wrist, and in his other hand a rough staff. He had a brown beard and a curiously clean face with blue eyes, and he was gazing into the distance in some rapt thought, not heeding any of the people, certainly not begging. I could not resist the impulse of offering him a small alms, and he took it with grave kindliness and thanked me courteously, and then went back to his contemplation. Just for once, I rather took Father C aback by saying to him that I thought the old man looked a great deal more like St. Joseph than the statue in the church. At any rate, St. Joseph on the way to Egypt. He seems to be, and what a happy thought in these shabby days where poverty seems only to bring sin and misery, a holy tramp. We must remember that for Tolkien, the will of God was active in the world, and that there was something holy in his image he sketches of this tramp. A tramp which seems to include many of Gandalf's own physical traits and characteristics. This notion of Gandalf as a holy tramp might not have been an intentional one, but it does offer us a glimpse into the author's thinking, to a point we can say that the staff would not be the only means for an emissary of God to conduct their mission. When he speaks of the eucatastrophe, he is talking about his notion of God choosing to act within his world of fiction, such as other events of note where we are told that Eru takes a personal role. It is different from the modern notion of Deus Ex Machina, which describes an otherwise unexplained story element. Tolkien's notion is one of a conscious God acting in the world, as he recounts the Eagles of Manwë as an example of the will of God acting in the world. So, to take away a wizard's staff does not take away their power, as the power which Gandalf possesses is not wholly his own. It is an extension of the power of God, and the power of God would not heed an instrument such as a staff to be used. So, while it may be the case the staff is a conduit that helps a wizard control or focus the energy of their being, it is not the source of their power, as that is bounded within their nature as Maya, and as such is only theirs but for the grace of God. What thought should God give to the destruction of a staff? None at all. This image of a holy tramp is not how Tolkien describes Gandalf, though looking back it is a perfectly apt one, if an intentional description of the role Gandalf plays. And we must admit, there is a certain majesty in this Holy Tramp, and the reassurance of God's love for humanity is one of Tolkien's most personal beliefs. So there we have it. While it is possible the staff is a way for the wizard to concentrate and focus their power in a more controlled manner, nothing we have from the text, or from our understanding of Tolkien and his views, should lead anyone to believe the staff is an absolute necessity, and that it is probable it is a symbol of their office and taken away the moment that position is taken from them. We see Gandalf accomplish great feats of power both with and without his staff, but as he is a servant of the Valar and therefore Eru Ilúvatar himself, we do not think it needs to be used for exorcisms or the conducting of the kind of nature magic we find within Tolkien's Legendarium. The strength of the Holy Tramp Tolkien alludes to in his letter gets his strength not from the staff on which he leans, but on the faith that nourishes his soul. And if this idea of hope and faith does not tell you enough about the strength of Gandalf, I don't know what else will. With that now though, it is time for my question of the day, which is, how important do you feel the staff was to the wizard? Essential, useful, or just to improve their look? Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section below. And now it's time to shout out our patrons. You guys have been amazing in supporting our short film project. We're making great progress, and I cannot thank you all enough. We have the Divine Power tier members of Kevin and Abram, the Fire Demon tier members of Nashith, Denversteel and Gregory, and the Wizard Staff tier members of John, Andrew, Jennifer, and Hunter 2. You are all true legends of the Bro Hero. Finally, if you've managed to reach the very end of this video with me today and you are enjoying what you see here, then please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon too, so that you can be notified when all future videos go up. And with that, thank you for spending just some of your time with me today, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.